Welcome everyone, John Pidgeon here, and Glen James is not with us today, so it's a free reign, it's a free for all. It could be loose, but we'll see how we go. Look, I've got the pleasure of having the great Luke Berry with me today. Welcome, Luke.
Thanks, Pidge. It's good to be back.
Yeah, and it is good to be back because we were here live October 2019, weren't we? For another loose night, which was great. So we're in the display suite at West End at Wickham in Newcastle. You've got two development projects underway, Stella and Eaton. Eaton. Get that right.
Yeah.
Tell us, what's the update?
Well, how different is the environment right now to October?
Yeah.
Take me back to October, please. Wow. Nothing like a global pandemic to make a few things interesting.
No.
Right?
Yeah. Well, you're still standing, so it must have went okay for you.
Well, look, it is. It's been challenging, I won't lie, and I'm hoping everyone that's out there listening, staying safe, keeping their hands clean and everything else. But we've had, like all businesses in Australia, we've had some challenges. We've been in an interesting category. We're essential. It's nice to be known as essential. Yes. Sometimes I think my wife-to-be doesn't think I'm too essential. But
important.
But, look, we've navigated through the crisis as best we could. Our sites have stayed open. We have had some impacts on delays and getting things, and you've got restrictions on people being on site. They're all lifting now. We're in our West End display cafe, and you can hear a bit of buzz most probably behind us.
Yeah.
So I feel that we're coming out of it. It's definitely going to be an interesting couple of months and years ahead, the way things are shaping up. But I'm proud of our team and where we are. I think October last year we had a couple of holes in the ground, really.
Yeah, that's right.
One's topping out and the other one's at level 6 or 7. And I'm going to take you guys up there for a sneak peek later.
Mate, I'm looking forward to getting the hard hat on. It's been a while.
Good old hard hat.
Yeah, so you said Stella's at level 6 or 7?
Yes.
And Eaton is topping out. So what is topping out in your terms?
So a bit of an industry thing. When you top out, that's when you're pouring the roof slabs.
Right.
And it is a milestone because that's the start or the beginning of the end with the making it weather tight and getting all the wall and infrastructure in. And so we're quite excited. And then we usually will take a tree up on the top and, the builders will have a few beers to celebrate, and then we're on to the next milestone.
Cool. Yeah, great. So for those that didn't listen back in October and they're new to our show, welcome. We're talking basically development. We're talking off the plan apartments. So 18 months ago was it when you first launched these two development projects?
Yep.
How many apartments in total were we looking at back then?
So the two projects, there's 270 apartments across the two sites, and we've been overwhelmed by the support, particularly locally by owner-occupiers. I've sold 230 already off the plan.
Great.
And, that's an important thing to highlight to the listeners when you're looking at developments. They've got to be done by people like us. I'd like to put myself in that category, but have track record that actually build and sites are under construction. Because off the plan's a bit risky, and if you don't pick the right one, it can be, fraught with danger from an investment point of view.
Yeah, and I suppose we've got some great listener questions that we'll get onto later on. But there is a lot of, I suppose, doom and gloom and concern and fear, not only in the property markets at the moment, but prior to COVID, very much around the apartment space because of some things that have gone wrong in different apartment blocks around the country. Now, I've known you for probably more than 10 years now, and I know your development company and the projects that you build and have built have just been A1.
Thank you.
And they're only getting better from what I can see. So how are you dealing with that sort of environment in terms of, you're playing in a very different space, aren't you, to everyone else?
It is, and the bulk and scale of the stuff we're doing now, I have known you a long time. I had hair that had more dark hairs than grey back then, and over the years those grey hairs have been well earned, and we are learning and we're getting better, and we're very proud of what we're building. But some of the stuff we'll talk about, like we're now off-siting all the construction of our wet areas, our bathrooms and laundries, particularly, are built off-site and go through a triple defect process before we bring them and place them within our buildings and then build the infrastructure around them.
Yeah, great.
But yeah, the industry, unfortunately, in that boom, say 5 years, there was a few people that cut a few corners, I would say. Now, if you might have had the pleasure to meet Scott Shaffron and his son James.
Yep.
Family-owned building that's a partner in our projects. Not only are they the builder, they're an equity partner.
Yep.
And I think our model, they employ local men and women that are proud of the product, that also buy in our developments. That's important to note. Like the actual tradies and the team are buying our own product. So we've worked hard to get into a space that we can continually challenge ourselves to get better.
Yeah.
Our designs are getting better.
They are.
And we're building good product for people out there. So if there's any listeners looking for an investment property, I'd make sure they reach out.
Well, let's go to that. So you mentioned off air that you've got an end of financial year offer happening, and I think you've just created an M3 special on top of that offer, which we're very grateful for. But I was speaking to Ben, who works for you before we come on today, and I said to him, look, what's left, what's available, because usually when I look at what's left in a land estate, for example, where there might be 1,000 lots and there's 30 remaining, those 30 are usually the dribs and drabs that no one really wants.
For sure.
Speaking to Ben, there's some quality stuff still left, isn't there? So tell us a bit about that, and then obviously your offer.
Yeah, look, it's always funny when you're building and you're launching a project off the plan. Sometimes you don't realise how good they are, right? And you might think, oh, that one's a northeast corner, I'm going to make that price at X, and that one's in the southwest corner and it's going to be priced at Y. And for the listeners out there, it's always a question I get asked, what's the first rule? Always look for a northeast corner, because that's where you get the good natural light. But what we've found with these properties, because of the elevation and the harbour views, south are picking up some of the best views in the development.
Right.
So we've got some crackers left that would be good for people to buy, rent, live in. And also, we've obviously done some amazing things with GoGet, and we've got some one beds, no parks that people when you own it and you want to live in it might want a car park, but as an investor, there's a big number of people that want to just rent a property.
Yes.
And the partnership with GoGet means we've got cars parked in our basement. You get free GoGet credits if you want them.
Yeah.
The train station and the light rails across the road.
It is.
And we're selling a couple of those every week. We've got about 5 or 6 left.
Yeah.
And they're good investments, because they still rent well.
Well, I knew you were innovative, Racer, but that's another level, isn't it? Being creative enough to get someone like GoGet to come in and say, well, yeah, let's make the most of these opportunities. So you've got a one better. You don't need a car, but I can grab one when I want to, sort of thing.
And it's so seamless. So you own the property. My company can manage it. You can get anyone to manage it. But when a tenant signs their lease, there's a GoGet application form.
Great.
Right? And then they get the card. And then if depending on what deal with GoGet, we're very proud. We bought them to Newcastle. You can see the GoGets are at our display suite.
Yes.
And they're in the basements ready to go. So by the time you're settling, there's not only going to be GoGet cars, there's GoGet vans to help people move in. And it's about developing property isn't just about the space, it's how people exist in it and enjoy it. And that's my job. If I'm not challenging myself and my team to make sure we're maximising the spaces and how people live, then, I might as well go back to Gunnedah and jump on a tractor, and nothing wrong with that.
Shout out to my brother who's listening back in the country. But
backbone of the nation. But you know what I mean? Like, we've got a job to do, and I want to make sure we're doing it the best we can, and that partnership made sense.
Yeah, and before you get on to your offer and your pricings, like we look at, or me personally as an investor, I look at population, infrastructure, economy as the three main drivers. Now, population, Newcastle growing, in particular closer to the water, is definitely more appealing than it was. Infrastructure, there's been a light rail just been put in, probably in planning for 5 years, and it's been running about 12 months now. So you bought these development sites with that in mind.
100%, yeah.
But there's massive risk involved in that, isn't there?
There is, yeah.
Where you say, well, if this light rail maybe it might come off, but then there could be change of government and they pull the pin, and I've just got this site sitting here. So it's not all bells and whistles for the developer, is it?
It's like anyone. Like when I'm buying sites, I do the same DD that a person buying an apartment should do or would do. And, looking at the Newcastle story, this corona crisis has been horrible. And there's a really interesting thing to share with your listeners, and I don't think many people would get this sort of data. So if there are numbers and people... We've got a property management book of a couple of hundred properties here in Newcastle, about the same in Sydney.
Yeah.
Right? Now, Corona's hit. It's got a lot of pressure on people financially. They're losing jobs and whatnot. In Newcastle, we had one or two people reach out, genuinely, I'm impacted by the Corona, I need help, blah, blah, blah. In Sydney, we had 20% of our book actually reach out and say they've got... issues dealing with it. Now, it's not to say that Sydney's bad or Newcastle, but what it does highlight, and every single one of the tenants hasn't missed a week's rent. And it's just such a weird pocket. Newcastle, and I was talking to a guy on the way up here from Sydney today, it's so diverse. It's got health, it's mining, it's got construction still going. You can see the cranes around. So I think that when you're looking at where am I going to put my hard-earned, it's not a bad market. Then you find a good developer like us, and hopefully it all makes sense.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so pricing, one-bedders with your go-get, what's that start from up to your two-bedders, and what's the offer?
So, mate, look, the one-bedders, there's some from as low as, I think, $390 with a special offer.
Yeah.
And then they go up to, depending on what height and where they are within the building. So $390 up to sort of $490 would be a $540. I think there's a really good one-bedder with a park.
Okay.
We've got some great two-bedders there that are around that $600,000 mark.
Yeah.
But yeah, just to announce the special offer for the M3 listener.
Yep.
We've got an end of financial year, so it's all triggered about the end of June. If anyone out there that's looking for an investment property wants to get into a good market, for an M3 listener, we've got a stamp duty offer, which is up to $15,000 towards stamp duty.
Yeah,
we're throwing in a home automation package, and we'll send some footage. Maybe you can include, which means that you've got up $15,000 worth of home automation. So really attractive to tenants, and that's something for end of financial year. But just for any M3 listener out there, anyone that makes a move by the end of June, I'm going to offer up to $10,000 in value that they can use in discounts in furniture. We've got some partnerships with people like Coco Republic, MCM House. It might not even be for the investment property. They might want to buy it for their home.
For their own home.
Look, I recognise the M3 network, a bunch of young men and women looking to make a play at their financial future. So if there's any way I can help in these dark times, then I'm willing to back them and make it happen.
Yeah, no, appreciate that, Racer. So link in the show notes for that offer, and obviously contact Glenn and myself to get any questions and answered and whatever. So all right, so some specific questions, I suppose. If you're buying off the plan, what things that do you want to have considered?
Yeah, well, look, as we said before, really the first thing is who's the developer builder. Let's just get that straight up. They've got to be reputable. If they haven't done something like this before, make sure you do your research on them, right? Because there's a lot of people that I call part-time property developers, and this market's definitely going to sort out the wheat from the chaff, as they say.
Well, it already has, hasn't it? Like I've been reading a few that have gone down, and they were probably on the edge before COVID, and COVID's just given it a push. Right. Yeah.
So whatever the delivery team, property developer, builder, make sure they're great. Yeah. Then you get to the product, and like we said before, northeast corner. Always try and pick, if you're buying off the plan, something in the northeast, and anything elevated with a view.
Yeah.
I always do what I call the rental test. If I'm willing to rent it, then I'm willing to buy it.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Now we know that obviously first home buyers especially have some different concessions depending on the state you're living in. You might have some stamp duty concessions. You might have a buy new rebate in a particular state. So with the 400K property, for example, the one betters, they can be in for maybe 40 grand total. So the deposit numbers are pretty low when you talk about real estate around the country comparing to your Melbournes and Sydneys. And you're buying into Newcastle for $500,000 less, and you're still the top 6 or 7 populated cities in the country, aren't you?
Yeah. Look, it's on par with that. And mate, after Corona, there's a massive shift on lifestyle, and we can see people wanting to really embrace this market.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So a question here from Alex: what obligations do developers have to fixing defects after settlement?
Well, look, there's always a defect window, Alex, and some do it really well, some don't do it that well, sadly. After you settle your product, usually there's a 12-month window of a good developer fixing defects, right? What we do, just to talk about Thirdi, because I can't talk about what anyone else does, but we have our own handyman that will follow around the builder. But the builder, we always have retention with a builder, and we hold that back, and there's a defect resolution process. We use an online platform where a resident or tenant can log in that there's a leaking tap, a loose handle, or whatever it is. And then that gets flagged with me as the developer, with my project manager or the handyman, and then the builder.
Sure.
And away we go. So I'd be checking that out. If you're not satisfied with the defect resolution, get it in your contract that there's some pretty tight terms around that.
And the key, from my experience, is transparency, isn't it? You want to be able to talk to the company and understand where they're up to, what the process is, this is what's going on, and you're getting that direct feedback.
Totally. And you know what? The reality is Newcastle's amazing because we're such a good team and we don't have a lot of defects when we settle. But there's always little things that happen and that need tweaking that may have been missed. But, we're working harder to get better at that and so that we can get down to 0 defects. And, talking about those triple defects, what we're doing with our pods now, we can see the next 2 sites that we literally have 0 defects in our bathroom and laundry areas. So.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, great. Now, Daniela asks an interesting question, which is maybe as a result of the media in the last 12 months, 2 years, but how do you know which company to trust so you're not ripped off?
Well, yeah, look, it's a good
Straight
question.
to the point, isn't it?
Yeah. I think Google's a powerful tool that anyone's got access to, and if you're going to do something serious like buy a property, I'd be going to town in Google on every way you can. There is big sweeping changes coming from industry about a ranking system,
right?
Which I'm excited about.
Yeah,
I've been doing this 15 years, and I'm very comfortable about how we're going to be ranked as a developer. I'm very comfortable with base build as a builder. And I don't know the intricacies of that just now, but there is some sweeping changes, guys, that the industry is supporting and the government's enforcing about making a ledger. I don't know how to explain it, but there will be a public record of if the builder's got any legal cases or any issues, so that you can get a bit more detail. Yeah,
which is a no-brainer, isn't it? It should have been implemented when you started 15 years ago.
Totally supportive. And it's I'm not just sitting here saying that I've had no issues with buildings over the time. There's always something with landscaping that you don't foresee impacting something else and so forth. So but I'm not retiring tomorrow, and I'm still building. I can't afford to have a bad rep out there, so we'll do everything we can to make good on any promise that we make. Yeah,
well, you're only 40, so that doesn't take. You don't want to turn the tap off yet, do you? Just on the whole, I suppose, defects. There's a question here that says, what can why can there be changes to the original plan? Is it time, cost, or other?
Well, look, there can be changes because of when you're building something off the plan, you don't necessarily know how it's all going to fit together. You got obviously run services and things like that, so there's always some variation in. Well, there's in a off the plan contract. There's an ability to have a 5% variation. But again, that's changing to be more in line with the person buying the property as well, which is a good thing. That
is good.
But yeah, so things like that. Yeah, it's hidden like costs. I fight it. I hate it because I sell. I'm in a display suite that you might get some footage of when you show it on YouTube. Where we sell what we sell, and if a builder try what's called a VE value engineering, they VE it out.
Yeah.
I go into bat to get it back in,
right.
Because I've got to then sit down with you when you're handing the keys over, and you say, well, that set of taps that I saw in the display suite.
Yeah.
That look really good. The taps that I've got aren't. So that happens a lot.
Yeah, sure.
And so, not with Third Eye, but my point is that a lot of developers out there might try and sell the big vision off a beautiful render, and then what you get's distinctly different. I refuse to be part of that, and I'll build our business off the back of what we sell is going to exceed your expectation.
Yeah, nice. And I mean, the idea of apartments in general is that I can be front and centre in a fantastic area for a third or more of the cost of what it would take me to buy a house on an existing block of land, right? So I'm getting into the suburb of my choice for a lot less cost.
Mate, totally. And if you do it well, and it's got some great amenity and transport links, and the lifestyle can be much better. And there's nothing against home building or houses like they're, if you can afford it and it's part of your plan as a family to live on a quarter-acre block with a big home, go for it.
Yeah.
But as a stepping stone, apartment living, I live in an apartment in Sydney and I love it. I obviously. Good design, so having good seamless indoor-outdoor integration is important, and making sure that apartment livings work. But yes, it's definitely something that Australians are getting used to or more considering is instead of the big house or whatever, I want to live in an apartment. So.
It's interesting transformation. I'm still trying to get my head around it. You're from Gunnedah, I'm from country Victoria. Both country lads grew up on acreage.
That's right. Yeah.
Now we're living in 50, 60 square apartments where we've got everything at our doorstep. Like it's a massive change that's sweeping through the country, isn't it?
The attitudes towards property are changing, and they're going to change even more after. The corona with getting locked in for 6 weeks. If you're in a 50 square metre box with no balcony that's facing south and looking at a neighbour, I think that people are going to realise that design and space and well thought design is really important, and the more we learn about that and the more we challenge ourselves to be better at creating amazing space, it's going to be better for the generations to come.
Totally. Now, Dasuni, I think it is, so apologies if I pronounced it incorrect, but he talks about what are the benefits in terms of land tax. Now, land tax is maybe up for renewal at the moment in terms of what's happening, but essentially land tax is state regulated, so it's got a threshold to say, well, if you own X amount of value of land, you're going to pay state revenue office dollars per year. As that land increases, you're going to pay more, right? How does that relate to apartments when the land essentially is quite small in relative to your building? Yeah,
well, look, depending on your strata or the community, the benefit is that it's divided up by many, so that's just a straight off the top in the benefits of land tax. You still got to pay it. Taxes are good. Let's face it. The only reason we've got JobKeeper at the moment is we're all paying tax. So I think that I don't like paying more tax than I have to. But at the same time, so straight off the bat, apartment living, you spread the cost of that space over your community, and then you end up paying a smaller amount. Which would be deemed a benefit compared to a house.
Yeah, and just I might add there, we only pay land tax at the moment on investments we've got. We don't pay land tax on our owner occupier.
That's
so if
right.
we're living in it, we've got no issues.
Yep.
If we're investing and it's an investment property in Stella or Eaton, for example, we wouldn't hit the threshold because of the value of the land.
That's right.
So we'd have to have probably 4 or 5 apartments in that state to actually even hit land tax thresholds.
There's the financial planner coming out in you.
Yeah, well, yeah, I'm just thinking logic here, but yeah. So no, there is a massive benefit in buying an apartment from 100%. A land tax point of view. So
you bet.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, so where completion is due when? Talk to us about how long we've got to go. Is Stella going to be completed before Eaton? What are the time frames and how they're working?
No, well, Eaton is on track for settlement in October.
Yep.
So it's only a few months. What's that? For 5 months away.
5 months, yeah.
So it will come together pretty quickly, and so October, November. We're still dealing with a bit of corona delays with materials and a few other things.
Yep.
Getting how many men and women we can have on site.
Yep.
And Stella, I think, will be on track for April next year.
April 21.
Yep.
Yeah, cool.
And,
okay.
They're not too far off what we thought they'd be pre-COVID.
Cool.
So Scott and his team are pretty amazing. The amount of high vis that's walking around this display and the site's quite blinding at the moment. So we're still trucking on and we're committed to hitting those dates.
Yeah, that's great. So just on that, I've got 2 more questions and then we'll get our hard hat on ourselves. But are there any specific clauses to look for in an off-the-plan contract, e.g. sunset clause? So that's a question from Lucy. Can you just quickly outline what is a sunset clause and how you're going with that?
Yeah, so good question, Lucy. Always make sure you've got a sunset clause that protects you as a buyer. I obviously need them to protect me as a developer from a funding point of view. So what a bank will usually say, and to give you an idea, it costs over $50 million to build Stella. So I'm talking, so right now it's 80 odd million for the 2 projects that we're managing.
Hence the grey hairs, right?
Yeah, that's 40 telephone book numbers. But what I do with our sunsets is you sit down and you go, okay, I'm gonna pay my 10% deposit to you to buy this beautiful apartment, and I need protection as a buyer that if you drag it out and it's too long, then I have the right to rescind if you go past the sunset date.
Sure.
And it's typically 12 months after the end of my contract.
Okay.
Right, with a builder.
Yep.
And I would be, if the project is getting close to completion, my tip to everyone is make your sunset shorter. Right?
Yeah.
And it's an important thing, but
so in the example of Eaton, you're saying we're forecasted to complete October 20 handover.
Yep.
Right, able to be lived in, rented out, whatever you do. Right.
Yep.
So your sunset clause in that example would be October 21.
That's right.
When someone was signing the contract. Yeah. Cool. Okay.
Yeah. So look, 12 months is fair and reasonable on both sides at a start of a launch of a project.
Yeah.
That's fairly reasonable when you've got good builders and you've got your funding in place and away you go.
Yeah, and that's really powerful, Racer, because I was talking to someone a couple of weeks ago about this who had gone into an off-the-plan apartment in Sydney. It wasn't one of Third Eyes, by the way, but they had a 3-year sunset clause. So what you're telling me now is that's way too long. Don't sign up for that stuff. It's maybe warning bells?
Yeah, look, it depends. It's like what the project is, where it is, how big it is. Like I've had some sunsets that have been a couple of years because we're subject to DA.
Right.
So you've got to get a DA and then you sell it. But,
sure.
But again, always come back to the sponsors. Who's the developer? Who's the builder? And then get a good legal. And then they can make sure you're protected.
Yeah, cool. Okay.
Yeah.
And my final one, not sure if you know the answer to this, but I'll give it to you anyway. If we're an investor, Eaton or Stella, we complete we're going to rent it out. Have we got some rental appraisals as to what we're looking at there from a dollar per week point of view? How are they looking? 1 bedder, 2 bedders, etc.
Yeah, it's a good. I should have checked this out, but right now we're running really well on occupancy, so we've got low vacancy, which is tick. Your 1 bedders we're renting around sort of 450.
Okay.
Right.
So I'm in for maybe circa 400 and I'm renting it for 450. There's a 5.5% yield, which is solid.
You know, we've been doing this a long time ago, particularly in Newcastle, and I always say that, and our target is $1 per thousand. So if you're buying a $600,000 property, you should be getting between $600 and $700 a week.
A week, yeah.
And so that 5%, you know, it might be swings and roundabouts, but if we try and target that, and there's that saying, you got to leave enough meat on the bone. So you know, our square metre rates down here are about, $9,500 a square metre.
Yep.
So if you've got a 50 square metre property, you times it by 9.5. Sort of just under 500,000, right?
Yeah.
Up the road here in Newcastle, our other great developments, but a different type of product, is $12,000 a square metre.
Right.
So we've always tried to bring ours in just under market, you know, and that's why people get good equity growth when they complete. We're attractive to rent because we can rent them cheaper than the guy down the road.
Yeah.
So there's a bit of science behind our pricing.
Totally.
And now with the train station, hopefully get some footage of it for you in the background. We believe that this area is going to be really attractive to renters that might even pay a bit more than that.
Yeah, well, I mean, for those out there, $1 per thousand is pretty much a cash flow positive situation, isn't it? And given the fact that we're sitting in 3% interest rate times, it's definitely cash flow positive after tax.
Totally.
Yeah, so that's pretty attractive. But obviously, as you mentioned, you've enough meat on the bone to say, well, there's going to be some good signs of growth in the short term because of the price point.
Well, it's important for me because I do want to build more, and I've had clients follow me from Tattersalls on Watt.
Yeah, I remember that one.
Remember that one?
Yeah.
And they've bought every single one because I've always kept it under the market, and they've lived in it or they've rented it out, and they've gone, right, I'm going to sell that, upgrade and chick. So I've made a commitment to try and do that and target sites, work with Scotty to make sure we can build them for the right price.
Yeah.
That always leaves a little bit of meat on the bone.
Totally. Yeah, well, Glen James is in here, so he must he must know something, huh?
Hey, I hope you're well, Glenn. Thank you. I know you're busy, mate. I know
he's a busy man. Yeah, no, that's right. Look, that's all from me, Racer. It's been a pleasure once again. I look forward to seeing these in completion and be able to walk through them at the end. But more importantly, I'm looking forward to getting my hard hat on now and get a look at it, get some views.
Let's get Pidgeon's got his young fella here. We're going to get them all dressed up in some high vis, and we'll share that footage online. But thanks for having me. And any M3 listener out there that's looking for an investment property that makes sense, make sure you reach out to the boys, and we would love to work with you. And there's some great properties ready to go.
Yeah, cool, Racer. It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much.
No worries, mate.
All right, see you, mate.
Cheers. Bye.
So here we are, Racer. This is level 6. I haven't been this high since my AFL playing days.
There you go.
So we've got the city behind us.
Yeah, what a view, hey?
Yeah, it's beautiful. There's a heat going on, isn't there?
Yeah, mate.
There's tradies everywhere.
We're actually technically hovering, so if you pan around, this is the north tower, that's the south tower. We are level 6 right now, and they're forming up the porous slabs.
Yep.
And then, mate, this is most probably the most important thing with why we're doing so well is that view. And it's a pretty dark, gloomy day.
Yes, not doing it justice, is it?
No, mate, but when you think about property, it's all about location. So you've got the train station, the CBD, you've got all that lifestyle with Honeysuckle just up the area there.
Yeah.
And, it's such a great location.
Yeah, so the key for me with this location is, as you said, the train station, but We're not getting built out here, are we? No one can put anything right there.
Yeah, look, there might be some development there. If you look at the sky, you follow this skyline along here.
Yeah.
There is a proposal for stuff to be built here. That's
to the right.
The trams.
Yeah.
And down here there could be some future development, but at this level you're never going to be built out.
No. Okay. Yeah. Cool. So this is Stella. We've got Eaton just over here. That's behind us. It's also under construction. So
yeah. So you've got similar views on the higher ones, but a little bit back, and then amazing district views at Eaton. So depending on budgets, obviously these are premium with the northeast. What I said before.
Yeah.
I own this one on level 6. You've got that north, and then you've got the harbour. They're just a fantastic product, and we're really proud of them.
Yeah, nice. All right, no, pleasure. Thanks for getting us up here, mate.
No worries.
Very good.
Mate, good to take care, and all the best. Stay safe with Corona.
Cheers. Race.